Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Austin Clark here, host of the Multiply You podcast. We've got a wonderful guest. I think that this episode will probably drop in 3 to 4 weeks, but I'm so excited for it to drop. You guys are going to hear, and this is something that you cannot hear enough about because marketing is king. Just like they say, cash is king, marketing is king. I mean, if you do not have fresh, good, qualified leads flowing in regularly at all times of the night or day, then you're just not growing. And so this is something that it's certainly not a new industry. It's been around for 1 billion years, but digital marketing, SEO, PPC, a lot of these things, they've only been around for 20 years. And so not quite in its infancy, but there is still a lot to learn. And there's so many things that are going wrong on either a lot of folks' websites or with their strategy or what they're trying to accomplish. And so we've got an incredible guest, Tim Brown, that I'll introduce here in just a moment that will help to set some of those things straight. And I'm excited for some of the conversation that we'll have. This episode, it's brought to you by Moxie Pest Control. We're actually going to be talking a little bit about branding, marketing, acquisitions. We've been fortunate, those of you that have tuned in and that tune in regularly, to have experienced a tremendous amount of growth. It's December as we sit here today. We're getting close to Christmas. And the last 3 years, as we've reflected as a management team and an executive team on just the customer count increase, the employee count increase, the revenue, and all of those sorts of things, it's been really humbling, and it's been a really neat experience. And we would expect over the next 3 years, the growth to continue as we've experienced the last 3 years. A key part of how we've been doing that has been acquisitions. That is every bit as much a skill as dialing in your search engine optimization, dialing in your pay-per-click campaigns, your Instagram ads, your Facebook ads. And we feel that we've got a good skill set in being able to do that and do that effectively now. And so specifically in Arizona and the Phoenix market, if you know anybody that's looking to be able to get on to the next chapter of their lives, pass them our way. I read an article just probably about an hour ago. It's talking about people that are leaving the job market and how a lot of that data is skewed because people are saying, oh yeah, everyone's hiring, but no one wants to work. These millennials or whatever, they don't want to work. And that's really not the case. The article that I read, it stated that 70% of those that are not re-entering the marketplace are 55 plus, and they've just chosen to retire early and are not planning to re-enter the market because the last 2 years has just been crazy. And so they found themselves in a good cash position. And so I thought that was interesting. And so I know that there's more people that own businesses, whether it's pest or otherwise, that are looking to be able to liquidate, get out, start retirement early, and just say, I'm not doing more of this over the next 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. They're not really willing to hang on for that. Anyway, enough of that. But if you do know somebody, they can reach me on my cell, have them call or text me, 480-254-9730. Tim Brown is here with us today. Tim Brown is a construction marketer, and he's the CEO of Hook Agency. It's a small marketing agency that's grown from just a couple of employees to many, many, many employees in just the last 3 years. Tim and I were talking briefly before, and some of our growth trajectory has been really similar the last couple of years. And so that's been kind of an interesting thing. Tim was a marketing director for another agency who decided to start his own company with his web design background and SEO knowledge after learning from the very best. As a small business owner, he learned the growing pains a company faces firsthand and how to overcome them, standardize processes and culture, and find your company and his company a mission and a purpose. Hook Agency drives ROI with constant marketing habits to get higher on Google, goes above and beyond for their clients, and regularly volunteers. Reputation is important as they aim for 5-star reviews and referrals. Now their business is 5 times more successful than in their very first year of business. So experience will do that. They've got many, many, many clients. They've got hundreds of websites launched, and go check them out online. They've got tons of 5-star reviews, and they just look really, really good. Tim, it's so good to have you on today. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me and my audience. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm super excited to talk about this stuff. by the way, congratulations on the ridiculous amount of 5-star reviews that you have. I think it's been a big, beautiful part of the shift in culture that we all have a little bit more accountability with the general public on our reputation. And we all have a big reason more than ever to just make sure we kill it on jobs and make sure we do a great job. I love the idea of what we're talking about today, because we're talking about not only if you acquire a company or are acquired, how to fold in that website for SEO purposes, but also if you're doing a rebrand, how to do that for SEO purposes. And we'll probably give a lot of great tips on your website and your search engine rankings that just apply in general for companies that are growing today as well.
Yeah, I'm pumped to be able to get into it. Before we do, give us a little bit of the Tim Brown story. What's some of your background? How long has the agency been around? What caused you to start out on your own? I mean, how did you get from where you were to where you are today? What was some of that journey like?
Yeah, I really wanted to. I started in website design and development. I did get the opportunity to, I did some internships, learned how to do websites for clients. I actually sold websites while I was in college and kind of learned that. And then I went and worked for another agency. In that process, I got to do stuff for Mall of America and some other big companies around here, like an orthopedic company. A lot of really cool websites that I got to be part of and was designing and developing them. So coding, and then design for Persuasion. And also this company did a lot of SEO. So I learned the SEO stuff very deeply, and I got to be their marketing director before I left. Some of the big aha moments that I had in that whole process, I got to rank my website for Minneapolis web design and Minneapolis SEO. I was number one for a while until I niched into home services and construction. And I really learned a lot of things in that process. But then when people asked me, how do you, I was trying to graphic design my way out of a box, because that was my background, right? And they're like, how do I get more customers? What can you design for me? I'm like, there's nothing else I can design for you that's going to get you more people on this website. I mean, it's hard to do that with just design. So I started to I had some retainers and stuff like that as an individual, and I started to change those over to SEO as I saw the power of that for just getting leads for myself, really. And those couple aha moments were make bigger content, make more comprehensive content, giant guides that then make your website into an authority for a particular subject. And that experience that, let's say, brought my website from 50 people on it a day to 250 people on a day, because I was making these big resources and sharing everything I knew and making something that's 10 times better than the other resource, or at least several times better than the next possible resource. That was a great experience, and I learned a lot in that. And then at a certain point, though, what really turned it up, the heat, is when I learned how to do basically linking from other websites back to my website. So I wrote, I remember my first time I wrote a article for lifehack.org or something, and I got a link. It was honestly, it wasn't even an article about what I did. It was contextually irrelevant, which is not ideal. But at that time, that link, and plus all the content that I had built out on my website, really basically doubled my traffic in a matter of months. So I went from 250 to 500, and then I very quickly went up to 700 and 1,000 people on my website a day. And as you can imagine, to have that many people on your website, and you're working somewhere else, you kind of, those are starting to be real business and real customers coming through for the topic.
Some serious traffic.
Yeah. And once you learn how to do that, it's hard to work for somebody else, to be honest with you. And just started selling stuff off of my website, and my employer at the time let me do that. But that experience propelled me into my own business, basically. So all this background with search engine optimization, for a lot of people, it's just kind of another thing to layer on to their business to get, because a lot of people are really good in some other way. They get a lot of referrals. They have, let's say really good Google ads or Facebook ads or something like that. For me, it was the core is how I got to be an entrepreneur. So it's very close to my heart and I believe in it. And I love organic Google traffic and leads. So that was kind of the impetus for getting out of my own. And then when I got out of my own, 4 months in, I hired my wife. The first couple of years, I was able to learn sales. To be honest, I didn't know sales before. I really dove in though. I made a curriculum for myself. I joined courses. I got mentors and was able to learn sales and sell $1 million my first couple of years. And in that process, I felt powerful. I felt cool, but it's also stressful starting to hire people. And that was the second layer of like, you hire people, hiring is the easy part, managing is the hard part. And then like trying to inspire, because at this point, hey, we all want somebody to inspire us. And we want somebody that's basically a real leader, somebody that cares and that there's a good culture. And so those are the things that I think those first 2-3 years I really had to learn in it. It hurt and it still is difficult, to be honest with you, because I'm pretty early still in my entrepreneurship journey. But that's such a big part of what I'm trying to learn right now is how to be a good leader. And we do that for people now. So that's the business is website design and development. We do all that from scratch, and then search engine optimization, which involves writing. And so we have 3 in-house writers, and people that are constantly doing this stuff all the time. And we do Google ads as well. But basically, managing those people has been a big, interesting adventure. And you like doing the work in your business. Like, let's say I really did. I was like, I'm a workaholic. I love it. I love doing this work. But then you realize that's not enough. I couldn't work 90 hours and manage these people like it's not the most important thing anymore. Workaholism or just like working 90 hours. It's like,
it's not enough. There's always more work to do and not enough people to do it. And there's always something to be done.
Yeah. And then being like emotionally stable is almost more important. Like it's hard to do 90 hours of work and then also be like a good leader with emotional intelligence and social intelligence all the time. So those are things I think I have to continue to develop and I know are important. And I am learning how to like work a little less. So I'm a little bit more balanced in my leadership and trying to, getting the best out of the other 15, 16 people on our team is going to be more impactful than me working that extra 30 hours sometimes. So that's that's where I'm at in my journey.
So let me ask you this then, Tim, since you founded the agency Hook, what, if you can, or if you're willing to share, I mean, what's been the highest high so far in the last few years? And what's maybe been the lowest low? Most people are more interested in the lowest low, not because they want to wallow down there, but most people can empathize because they've had either setbacks or really difficult days or weeks or months or quarters or years. And there's a lot of learning that happens there. What's been a high point and what's been a low point that you could share?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get one more recent. The first one that comes to mind on high point is like that first big close after I started the business and just remembering that feeling of like, I'm gonna make it.
I'm gonna it's like your first dollar, right? It's the first dollar that you see in restaurants that are plastered on the wall,
That feels good. So that is definitely one. I might come up with another one too, but I'll say a negative was definitely that first employee that left, especially after you spent because it's your time training someone. And then that person left a year after being with us. So I just spent a year trying to download my brain into this person's brain. And then boom, they're gone. So that was a big low point. And I think it solidified the culture thing and it solidified we need processes all the time, create processes and create artifacts of those processes, create checklists, create everyone in my company now is a process person. Everyone in my company is trying to make the job of the next person that comes after them easier so that there's some built, it's basically like equity. We're trying to build processes as equity in this company to create smoothness long-term for the other people in those roles.
I like that. I've never heard it put that way. Processes build equity, but they certainly do, because you want to make the process the expert, and not that you want to not have the employee not be the expert, but when you put a fantastic employee or person that's capable and talented into a company or an organization with fantastic processes, magic happens. And so and then it also covers people's back ends, and it's just a really good knowledge to be able to have once and for all, and into the future. You've been doing this for a while. You're an expert. You have tons of experience. And then we'll get into some of the branding and marketing and acquisition. But when you either onboard a new client, or one of the things we wanted to talk about was website. When you look at a client's or a potential client's website, you've looked at thousands of websites, probably more than you wanted to look at. What would you say are like the top three, like without even looking at them, you can say, look, this is what I'm going to look at first, second, third. And I'll bet you've got one of those things right, but the other two you probably don't quite have right. Or I know that there's some low-hanging fruit there. So when you do like a website analysis, and I'll kind of give you an example while you're thinking about that, Tim, but we buy pest control companies. And I had an opportunity, we kind of have an opportunity right now. I won't say the name of the company, but I hopped on it just today for the first time. We got in contact with the gentleman earlier in the week. And the website, literally, I'm not joking about this, I think it was one of the first 1,000 websites ever built, like in the world. Like it is straight from the year 2000 or 2001, has not been updated, is not friendly. You click on half the links and they go nowhere. You know what I mean? They still have like the placeholders or widgets for when you want to add your Twitter feed, or it's just like one of the first out of the box websites. And maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but there's a better way. But what are some of the things that you see on the regular that, like, day one, hey, you make these couple of adjustments and it'll move the needle?
Yeah, I think that broken is one thing. Obviously, you don't want broken. I honestly am looking for, because we don't always suggest website redesign right when we get a customer, because we do ongoing marketing or whatever, right? But I just want it to be 80% or more, right? At a certain point, if it's at 80% or more, it doesn't need to be redesigned. Some of the things we're looking for in that process, because I have to train our salespeople to kind of look for that, because I don't want them to sell a website if the website's 80% or more. One, strong visual call to action throughout the website. So we always do that little button up at the top right. It used to be just software companies did that. I honestly, for home services contractors, I believe you should have that button up there that says get started. We also, or whatever. And then also a lot of home services businesses, we have that form right away on the home page and on the other sub pages. Just get started. A lot of people are not, just to be honest, like you do pest control. We work with a lot of home services business, particularly roofers is a really common one for us. By the way, pest control companies and roofers should have a much closer relationship, by the way, like all across the board. Great referral partners, for real. The form is important because people don't necessarily come to sit there. Like they're not coming to like learn about your culture most of the time. Like realistically, it's a quicker purchase, it's a quicker conversation. So give them that option right away. Or if they're not ready to make a decision, at least tell them what the reason for the site is, which is to contact you, right? The second one is testimonials and other trust factors. So we talk about badges. Like let's say if you were like, I know it's changed to Angie now, but like Angie's List, their top people, or your guarantee, or your manufacturers, or like the Google 5-star reviews, making these into like badges and making them feel consistent with the look of your website, but making them, honestly, it's not even that they have to stand out. They just have to be there and kind of give that feeling of trust to people. Anything to do with trust. Because most people don't know you. I think that this is a big transition that a lot of people make, is like, hey, everyone refers us business, so they go to the website just to submit the contact form or make the call. Well, what if they didn't know you beforehand? And that's where people hadn't been used to that a lot of times when they're kind of, scaling their business, and they have to get this website to somebody to trust them just purely on website, which is a big leap. And testimonials, when I say testimonials, I mean, I want a brief 2 sentences. I want a smiling, happy customer picture. I want where that review was left. So Google's logo even. And then I want 5 stars. That's the absolute ideal testimonial. I want it almost to look like a widget because it looks like it's embedded from around the web. Like the problem with just the pure testimonial slider that we all used to have was people just, it's, oh, this is curated. And
it's almost like they don't look at it. I mean, they recognize that it's there, but it doesn't do anything to them emotionally.
Exactly. And that's the other problem with the carousel on top is there's a lot of data that says no one goes to the second slide. And the same, it's ad blindness. It looks like an ad. And the same goes with those testimonials, ad blindness. So you can almost make it look like just reviews embedded from Google. That's the best look. And then 3, the last one, emotionally persuasive images and headlines. A lot of people on here will know Donald Miller, his book, Story Brand. It's about making your ideal customer the hero of the story and helping them imagine themselves working with you. So persuasion, it's an old school sales thing where you mirror the prospect. I'm not telling you to do something greasy, but I'm saying if you can get a human being smiling, experiencing the benefit of your product or service, completely like put themselves in that position, that's the image that you want, ideal scenario, then that person is going to imagine themselves in that position, experiencing the emotional benefit of them getting your service. So, and the headlines thing is more important than you think. I think a lot of home services businesses, a lot of businesses in general, they do not pay attention to the copy on their website. They put it on there as an afterthought. And I want to coach you to really look at your copy and think about, is this, if I said this to a prospect who was right in front of me. So read your copy out loud on your website and say, would I really say that to a prospect in front of me? Or do I sound like a weirdo? Like I'm saying the best pest control company in Pennsylvania. Like you would say that? You wouldn't say that. You'd say something more friendly. You'd just say something more relaxed. You'd say something that was about them and their problem and how you can help them. And examples of how you've done this in the past for other people. So read it out loud. That's the biggest tip I can give on the copy. Make sure your headlines in particular are really good because most people are scanning. We're not reading all that copy. Do put 500 plus words on every service page for Google and for people that really are kind of digging in a little bit, but focus on those headlines most of all and make sure that it's human readable and it sounds like a conversation.
Huge nuggets there. And so I hope that people go back 5 minutes and listen to that piece 3 or 4 times because there's some really key actionable things that you can literally do today to move the needle and improve your site. And by the way, those same principles apply to the marketing that you do. And so when you put a Google ad out there, a PPC ad, have a good, catchy call to action in your thumbnail there. Make sure you have good copy below it, right? And have it be something that you would click on, your ideal customer would click on. Who is your ideal customer? Where do they shop? Do they shop at Walmart or do they shop at Target? Do they drive Lexuses and BMWs or is it Ford? And so like, where are you in the marketplace and go meet your ideal customer there? We're going to kind of transition, Tim, into what we talked about previously, and that's acquisitions. I kind of lit up when we spoke about this before the show went live. And that's because we do acquisitions. And some of the things that we talked about is, so for example, and we've done it different ways and we've had different reasons for that. I don't know if they're necessarily right or wrong, but for example, when do you fold in a company's website that someone has bought? I know that you're working with multiple clients. A lot of them have done acquisitions or they have been acquired. And so there comes a point in time when those brands fold in. They don't have to, but normally companies aren't interested in running more than one brand or more than one website. It's enough for us to be able to run our own single website and our own single brand, not to mention like multiple websites. And so I guess the situation could be different, but in terms of how important it is, I mean, when are you folding in a website? Are you ever doing that? What do the backlinks look like? I mean, if it's a really strong, so for example, I don't think that this website, I should probably Google it before I find out, but like for me, a really strong website in the Arizona market or in the Phoenix market would be like, and disagree with me if I'm off base or challenge me, but like phoenixpestcontrol.com would be like really good. Gilbertpestcontrol.com, chandlerpestcontrol.com, like those would be incredible website domains to own. And it doesn't really matter like where they're filtering or whatever else, but you probably wouldn't want to, our site is moxieservices.com. And if we could acquire, a phoenixpestcontrol.com or purchase that, we probably wouldn't just like fold that into Moxie. There's probably a lot of value that would come from that. And so what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll give just a brief story to kind of set this up. We had a customer or client they purchased another big company. It's kind of a roll up, and they were trying to figure this out, and they were asking our SEO specialists. It's really a little bit broader than an SEO discussion now. It's about the brand, and there's a number of reasons. There's a lot of if this then that statements here. There's like a lot of stuff there's a lot of it depends in here, but I'm going to give as much of it as I can. In this particular case, the business that they're acquiring has a lot of brand equity out there in the world. And I can see that very quickly by putting in Ahrefs, ahrefs.com, which is an SEO tool. There's also SEMrush, semrush.com. Both of them awesome. You can quickly check a competitor or check somebody that you're acquiring. You pop them in there. In this case, they have probably 1,000 searches a month for their brand name, which is a lot. I would say anything past 500 that's recognizable by this tool is basically like, I get a lot less excited about taking that website and redirecting it to the client's website, because there's all this brand equity out there that, yes, at a certain point you may want to absorb, but you want to watch it because there's a lot of stuff out there. HVAC company, we talked to them recently, another story. They had stickers everywhere around the Twin Cities here in Minnesota, like from both companies. And so that brand equity there would be some lost in translation if they're calling this company and the other company is answering and they're saying, oh, sure, it's probably not that much. So yes, there is a point where you do want to cut it off. And like you said, it's really hard maintaining all these websites if you've got this. So that's where it comes down to, because when you're acquiring people, and I'm not an expert on this, but I do want to give my 2 cents here, which is part of the reason you're doing it is to have centralized resources, right? So if you can't have centralized resources regarding the website and all your marketing, then that's a lot of wasted effort. And I always want to push slowly towards absorbing, but you got to look at how much brand equity is out there and try to maintain some of that, because it doesn't fully transfer. Just like if you redirected the entire website page by page, and if you did that, you'd want to make sure that there's a corresponding page, and maybe even make new pages on the current website. Let's say if Moxie had acquired somebody and you'd want to make sure there's as many of the pages from this other website on this website. So let's say there's a bunch of other suburb location landing pages around Arizona. You'd want to make sure those were all present on the new website and make sure that they were redirected to the website. And that's a really big principle, not only in acquisition, but if you're rebranding, you can keep 90% of that equity, that link equity, as you're talking about. Links are such a big reason why something algorithmically is authoritative on Google. Make sure that all the pages exist on the new website and the new brand, and that they're all redirected from this old website to the new website. You can keep 90% of that equity if you do that with, from an SEO perspective. But it is such a big discussion. So it really matters how much consolidation you're really doing. And if that other company's leadership all exists still, because that's a thing, like they're maintaining all that structure. Maybe you want to keep that brand alive, even though it's got a parent company. And I think that this is where the limits of my knowledge here kind of trickle off. But from an SEO perspective, there is a lot of benefit to keeping that website. Now, regarding the location exact match domain that you mentioned, phoenixpestcontrol.com or something. First of all, there is still a lot of authority in that strategy. I know some people like to kind of play it down a little bit because everyone likes to pretend SEO changes every year. It's very similar though, year to year. It's just something SEO guys do to kind of keep
confuse people. Yeah.
So fun alive and to sell our expertise or whatever. But that still works. I just did an experiment on this in our city, just to see, and it really works still. But everything has to be on that domain. You can't redirect it to get that power as much. You can if there's been a lot built out on that in the past and there's a lot of links to it. But if there's not a lot of links to it, it's the exact match domain and all the content on that website that matches that. And so that's where you get the power. The redirect alone would not do a ton.
Well, and there are lots of different strategies too. I mean, you see, like you said, Tim, different corporations or groups that, they might be called ABC Group, and ABC Group owns Circle K and Chevron. And I'm making this up, that's not true, but they just own multiple brands that operate in the same market, that compete against one another, that are serving different segments of the market, the higher end, mid, lower, whatever it is. And so,
And the HVAC example I had was one half of it was commercial and the other one was residential. And if those brands mean something in those markets, especially the commercial one where you have all these B2B relationships that already exist, it doesn't make a ton of sense to try to there is value in brand, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Brand does retain value. You just have to figure out how much. And I think those tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush can give you at a glance how much brand power is there here. And another way, last bit on this is Search Console is another way to see how many searches you have. If you can get into that company's Search Console, you can see how many branded searches they have, which is, I don't know, it's really fun. It's just another way to measure brand.
Lots of free tools out there. And then if you want to spend a few bucks, there's even more tools that'll provide even more data or more information. Tim, again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being on. If people need to reach you, how do they contact you? I mean, are you on LinkedIn, or what's the best way to get in contact with you?
So hookagency.com for the company, and Tim Brown, Hook Agency on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you there. I'm very active and I love talking about this stuff. So if I can be of service, I will. And hey, man, it was really good to chat with you. This is a fun conversation. Thank you for letting me get nerdy for a second.
Hey, no, of course. Yeah, there might be a part two. I think that, marketing is, again, it's king, and there's just so many things to be able to know and be able to learn about that. Lots of different lines of thought and things to be able to move the needle and help people have more of an ROI and provide more value to their customers. So it's been a pleasure. It's been great. Thank you so much for being on, and thank you everybody that's listening. Really appreciate you tuning in and listening for a few moments while Tim and I chop it up a bit. These will continue to drop every Thursday, so please continue to tune in. And until then, create a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.